We
All
are
right.
officially live. Well, welcome everybody out there for joining us on this very, very exciting occasion for Teresa and I. We're really excited to be back in the kind of Ownstream vibe. We haven't done this in a while. Forgive us any sort of technical or verbal glitches. It's been a year and a half or so, but we're really, really excited to be coming back to you. And we're most excited about our guests, Alex and Gary Cousins. Guys, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, when Steve and I, we did a live welcome, you guys. So good to be here with you. We did a live yesterday, kind of getting into depth about who you are and how we know you and how we've been following you for about a year and a quarter, year and a half. And my experience working with you, Alex, I kind of went into depth about that. We wanted to do that because we used to spend about half of our Ownstream interviews kind of just finding out who the guest was. And we wanted to have more opportunity because there's so many things we want to talk to you about to kind of dive more into to where we're at and what's going on. And so when we've thought about when this idea came to us to have a conversation series about what's happening in the world, what is the coronavirus, what is the shift happening right now that so many of us feel beyond what's being said in the mainstream. You were, among the very first we thought of because you've been speaking so much about this and feel very tuned into, and have been for a while before all this happened, tuned into a vision for a new earth and a new society that is very strong. So we're so excited to get to start this series with you guys. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yay, wow, thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, shall we just dive in?
Yeah,
let's just dive in. Yeah.
So we so the first question we had, we thought, we're not, like I said, we're not going to get into a lot of background, but maybe just as a foundation, we could talk about maybe you could talk briefly, and I know you could talk at hours about this, but maybe you could talk briefly just to get us started about what's led you to the state of clarity and awareness that you currently experience. I know you both described being kind of very in touch with source and living from source. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what that's like and how you got to this point where you feel so in touch with source and with a vision for a new earth.
Right, shall I start now? So yeah, I mean, we've been separately on this journey, for years before we met. Then we met and we pretty much dove straight into, like, our first date was really a plant medicine journey.
Well, we've been together for like 14 years.
14 years. And so we were really brought together by San Pedro, the plant medicine. And in this first journey, we were shown what we were here to do together. And initially, this was extremely uncomfortable for my ego in particular, because I was like, who is this man? And, why are we being shown all these intimate details when I have absolutely no interest in this man? And so it was, already our meeting was like, okay, let's blow ego out of the way. Boom, here it is. And the vision was beautiful. And the vision was really about, we are here to create a whole new way of being human. And initially, I mean, it was beautiful and sweet and expansive.
But we had no idea how that was going to unfold. It was just, it was a vision, very much a future vision.
And a deep feeling. Mm-hmm. It was a deep feeling in our body. And we then, we got together and sort of really the story started to unfold. And it was through our own journey of working through our shadow, through our suffering throughout the years. And then eventually 6 years ago, I got sick and no doctor could help me. And, we were doing all this work and I got to the point where it was like, I'm doing all this work. We're doing everything right. We're putting all of our money, our resources, our time, our efforts, everything into this growth. When is release coming? Like, when are we there where all the books say that you're supposed to be there, right? And so I didn't have any other choice but to really radically dive into the deepest recesses of myself, my psyche, my belief systems. And I found cellular detoxification, fasting, purification. And I dove straight into that. And then eventually Gary came along the journey because he started seeing what was happening to me. And long story short, full alignment happened. So not only the body started healing miraculously from what I thought I would heal in, but all of a sudden, utter clarity that was sustainable on a day-to-day basis. And it was effortless. All of a sudden, it was effortless to be completely plugged into source.
Yeah, so for me, it was, I remember, you know, Alex finally said, oh, we're going to do a detox. And I remember being completely terrified. What's a detox? And we dove into that. I remember 10 days I was on leave, and it was around Christmas time. We dove in and we had a bit of fruit in the morning. We did 3 coffee enemas during the day, which is like so radical. Plus, and then a bit of light vegetables in the evening, and then plus we also added some plant medicine work during those 10 days as well. So we really dived into a whole process of inner work and inner cleansing. And wow, you know, it was such I thought after 10 days I could just go and eat my scrambled eggs again, which I did, and I got as sick as a dog. And suddenly I got this like insight, wow, maybe eggs aren't so great for my body if, you know, just eating them again makes you sick, whereas eating fruit doesn't make you sick. So that opened up a whole journey. And then from there, Alex discovered this really intense fast, which we then jumped into. And that just set off a whole journey where suddenly as the year unfolded, my colleagues were saying to me, I think you need some new clothes. You're like losing weight, you know? And I just lost, you know, 10 kilograms effortlessly. People were starting to ask me questions like, what are you doing? You know, we hear things, we hear you fasting. What's this about? And it opened up a whole new world. And from there, people started like, yeah, well, you started telling people what the work you were doing.
Well, basically, as they started sharing the work, because for me, it was really this big revelation of, oh my goodness, we're doing all the work out there, but we're not taking care of the primary source of our consciousness, because our body is the filter through which everything runs through, right? Like and so what we perceive to be real is only real to the degree that our filter is able to project it, to run it. And, you know, we all know, or especially those of us that have done plant medicine work, we know that space where we go into the ceremony, we come out the other side with such clarity and purpose and connection. And then over the course of days and weeks, we find ourselves back to nothing, or, you know, a very reduced sense of clarity. And so that for me has completely vanished. Like now, yes, we still occasionally work, especially with a lot of our private clients, we work with plant medicines, but I can have the same connection, the same viewpoint every single day. And of course, sometimes we may lose it. Like this last week for us also has been super intense. And my body has been running all the fear of the planet through it. But then we always come back to that place of clarity and joy and centeredness and freedom.
So yeah, it's been a journey for me personally of like a whole reevaluation of body awareness, health awareness. I mean, in many ways, you know, I was just your typical kind of IT geek, living in the head, you know, living in my computers, not really thinking much about nutrition and food. I was blessed with an amazing chef who just dished up amazing food, which I ate, but with no real awareness. And suddenly starting to work with fasting and deeper spiritual inquiry to realize like, oh, wow, you know, I mean, I remember, we won't even go into that topic, but I remember hearing about breatharianism and thinking, that's just like, yeah, maybe that happens in the Himalayas. Maybe there's some Indian gurus that can do that. But when I did my first fast, and I realized, wow, you can actually go 40 days just on grape juice. Wow, maybe you can get to a place where you can then connect in with pranic energy and you then go completely without food. So it's been a journey of awakening and a journey for me into my own body, because it's been really hard for me to embody. I mean, I hated any form of exercise. That was not my world at all. And now, if I don't do my yoga in the morning, or if I don't go for my run, I really feel it. So there's this shift that took place. Mm-hmm. And that for me is quite an amazing shift, because I was very much of this like, just get me off this crazy planet. Let me go with the aliens to another planet. Let's just, enough of this planet. And now I'm realizing that the more we go into our body, the more we connect with nature, the more we realize that the only way we're going to transform this world is one, through transforming ourselves. And from transforming ourselves, we transform the world around us, and then we transform the world around us.
Literally by inevitability. So I think that's been our greatest experience, is that when we come fully online in our body, and that most of us don't even have the faintest idea of what it means to actually thrive and be healthy, because we have come to understand that health is a six-pack. Health is being able to run a triathlon, and all of those things, they are just a fraction of what's possible for us. And we've come to equate health with not having, wrinkles or whatever. And health really is, how deeply are you connected to source and to your infinite power. And of course, like, we are also just barely scratching the surface, and every single day we realize how much there still is to go. And that makes life exciting, because we go, wow, if we feel this good, this connected, this infinite now, it can only get better. It has gotten better.
Oh, it's wonderful.
That's great.
Wonderful, you guys.
Yeah.
And such a good starting point for talking about the health of the planet and what's happening right now. So I know you guys have been talking a lot about this, so would love to hear from you on this. Why don't we talk about, like, what is a virus? What is the coronavirus?
And by the way, if you see me over here, I'm checking the live questions in the comments in the feed. So that's what I'm doing.
So yeah, what kind of reschooling us a little bit about, like, what is a virus? What is the coronavirus? And why is it here right now? Like, what is it showing us as a collective?
So it's very important to understand that all viruses and bacteria and pathogens, including parasites, including Candida, are really here to help us. They are part of the ecosystem. So just as in my health practices, we don't go and kill Candida or kill parasites, but rather the focus is on creating an internal terrain in our body where the potential parasites and Candida and pathogens don't have anything to thrive on. And we do that through internal terrain modification. And then sure, on top of that, we take herbs that assist the elimination of the parasites, but we don't talk kill parasites, kill Candida, because we have an understanding that Candida, for example, is only present in excess in our body when there's heavy metals, and that Candida helps to clean up the heavy metals in our body. Of course, it then also brings detriment, because everything always has a price. Everything has an energetic price. So, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. It means it is there to assist. And we have created an environment that fosters the proliferation of pathogens, funguses, etc. And so similar with viruses.
Maybe just jump in here and to point out that a virus is very different from bacteria and fungi. Bacteria and fungi are living things,
Yes.
whereas virus is not a living thing. And the best way to understand a virus, it is just information. In fact, this coronavirus is just an RNA strand encased in a protein, which can easily be destroyed.
Protein and lipid.
Yeah, destroyed by. So, but it's information. Then when it comes into the body, it really triggers a response from the body. And that's really what you're saying in terms of creating an environment of the body that is not conducive to the virus then proliferating.
Right. But so in essence, the response that is triggered is it releases toxins. And it's kind of like a rearranging of our DNA, of our cellular structure, where it is an upgrade. You know, it is an upgrade. And we are here to become more and more biodiverse, especially now more than ever, because the world is one world. We are no longer living in isolation the way that we used to. And through communication, we are in contact with, you know, we can sit here on this tiny little island in the middle of nowhere and we can be connected to the whole world. So we need to be, and we can travel, and we do travel more than ever. And so we need to be in our bodies completely resilient to a far greater biodiversity nowadays. So that's first and foremost. And I do feel that all the information in terms of pathogens and viruses that's coming in is assisting the upgrade. And that this upgrade also consists of removing old fear patterns and forms of consciousness that have solidified in our body. And so, for example, every single time that we raise our frequency and that we shift out of old programming, there is a release of toxin that happens in our body. And that release of toxins can cause a state of dis-ease. And I personally am 100% firmly convinced that the vast majority of diseases in our world today, which has been on the increase, right? And diseases, I speak any, it can be cancer, mystery illnesses, you know, whatever, that is part of the cellular restructuring and upgrade that the world is undergoing, and that we have a completely wrong relationship to disease, just as we have a completely wrong relationship to pathogens, right? So the vast majority of people have an excess candida and they go, right, we need to kill candida. It's the wrong approach. It's the same thing of when we get cancer and we say, right, we're going to fight this cancer. No, we need to understand that whatever is coming towards us is good and is there to assist and upgrade us. So already when that shift in consciousness happens, we're able to gather the gifts of what we're being presented with. And so let's talk about, you know, like if somebody has cancer, I get excited because it means your body is actually ready to heal. Your consciousness is ready to release old patterns. Is your ego ready to do that? That is the biggest question. And I see it in the work with my clients. The only time that we're not able to have a big shift in their consciousness is if their ego gets in the way. So this is a big restructuring of our egos. This is a coming into the softness of our heart. And in many ways, you know, like my most direct experience was, again, when I was sick and I was on my knees because I thought I was doing everything right. My ego was like, but you have 20 years of experience in nutrition and you've been studying this. And, you know, like I thought I knew, I thought I was doing everything right. And when I got sick, it was like a big slap in the face of like, you know nothing, go back to the drawing board.
Mm.
And then I did a medicine journey with Iboga, and that was probably my biggest slap in the face ever, because what Iboga showed me was, look at the blackness in your heart chakra. Look at the void. And in the journey, I was like, but I've done 15 years of work. But I've gone to India. I was with gurus. I was in an ashram. I sacrificed so much. How can you show me this? And Iboga was like, we don't care what you think. We don't care about your ego construct that you've built. We're showing you the truth. And you're either ready to let it in and let it break you down and break you open, or you can continue on your little merry path and believe that you're doing everything but wonder why you're still suffering. And I feel that ultimately that is what the world is showing us now. The coronavirus, and also it doesn't matter if it's man-made, because, well, even if it is man-made, aren't we all divine beings? So it doesn't matter where it's coming from. It doesn't matter what the stories behind it is. What matters is, this is the now. This is what's happening. What is it showing you in your body in this moment? Where's the pressure being put on? Are you in fear that you're going to get it and that you're going to lose your life, or you're going to be, greatly inhibited by this? It's maybe showing you that it's time to take your health and your life more seriously. Is it showing you that you're not living in your purpose? Is it showing you that you're living in wrong relationship to nature? Whatever is coming up for you, it's to be taken seriously for once. Because we have all been taken too much lightly, and we're like, oh yeah, well, this is okay, that's okay, I can bear with all of these things. And life is showing us how much are we still going to be putting up with and squeezed.
Yeah, that's the real question, just for the world right now. Just to what level will we really turn within? Everybody is within their own homes right now, but to what level are people really going to turn within? We know Netflix and all the streaming services are booming.
So it's Zoom. Zoom is off the charts.
It's like everything, they're worrying about, can the internet cope? And that's why, I think for us, it's also just been the last week or two, it's just been so overwhelming with so much information, so many conspiracy theories being put out. We've been sent videos from people, oh, I'd love your comment on this video. And like the one video is an hour long. And then I get another video, I'd love your comment on this video. And I'm like, I'm not interested in all of these videos. It's like, this is the time to go within and for us to really get still and clear, like, what is it that we need to personally do? What is the level of creativity? Because, we are all concerned about our income and our businesses and the economy. And, there are people in our group that have messaged me to say, sorry, but I've just been laid off work. I won't be able to continue the subscription to your group, etc. People are losing their jobs. There's real fears. The damage, Trump is correct that, that the fallout from the economy is going to be far worse than the damage caused by the disease and the virus, as sad as it is for all the people dying. So yeah, I said, look, what do we have to do? Well, we have to really go within our own selves. We have to cut out all the noise, all the social media, all the documentaries, all the opinions, and to really turn within us. Because, I'm an astrologer, and astrologers have been looking at this year for a long time. We've known that 2020 is going to be a pivotal year in human shift and human consciousness change. There are three major planetary alignments that take place this year. One one of them only takes place every 35 years, the one is every 12 years, and the other one's every 20 years. We have these three long-term cycles all converging into this year. So the astrologers know that this is a pivotal shifting point for human society. But the question is, you know, how, the only way it's going to shift is when each one of us literally goes within and gets very still and very clear. And that's really the work that Alex particularly teaches, is helping people to get in a clarity, to remove all the obstacles that stops us from getting still and to get clear.
Yeah, so ultimately it is about also prioritizing like what energies are at the forefront that need to be worked with. Because, you know, if you're losing your job and you are now in a rush to make money, and you're not listening to your internal guidance system that maybe says, right now, you need to focus on your physical body so that you can become the light and you can become the filter for consciousness to flow through. And so in many ways, like what I teach is everything is so simple. And the answers, and that's what we've experienced, right? Like, we don't need to know everything. We just need to know, what do I need to know now? And now, and now. And can we make use of all the guidance, seen and unseen, that is available to us constantly in miraculous ways? I mean, we have 14 years of miracles that we have experienced. And so we can no longer sit here and go, oh, we don't know what to do. We can't. We've experienced too many miracles, too much beauty and grace to be able to mope around. And this is what we want to transmit to others. And that we know that every single one of us, no matter how broken or destitute you think you may be in this moment, you have something that the world needs. And now is the time to get that out. And in terms of, so even in terms of financial crisis, what's happening is, can we be grateful? As scary as it is, can we sit in gratitude and in excitement? Because when we make that internal shift from fear to excitement, even if we don't know how that's going to pan out for each one of us individually, something shifts. And so my urge, the one thing that I can give to people, what can you do right now, is shift your consciousness and do whatever you need to do to stay in that altered state.
Shift out of fear, if we summarize it, shift out of a fearful, crouching posture into one of love, excitement, hope, promise, transformation. We've had some interesting questions on the chat, and one, and we can kind of include this in a bigger question, but is, and I think this is a question I'm making up on the fly, but I'm interested because I think it kind of explores a lot of what you just brought. But is, let's say a virus comes into one of your bodies and it goes into a very unhealthy person's body, someone who's maybe diabetic or obese or whatever the case may be. What is its action in, what is the difference in how it acts in one versus the other, leading one to perhaps even be asymptomatic, not even know they have it, versus someone who falls over dead, which is apparently happening. What is the difference between those two physical responses?
Yes, amazing question. So the difference is, a virus, like any pathogen, will bring up again all the toxicity that is in the body. And an immune impaired body, or a toxic body, because we either are running mainly alkaline or mainly acidic. The vast majority of people are running on mainly acidic bodies. And as much as that is possible, and we can look like we're thriving on that, the reality is that when pathogens come, an acidic body is a body that will struggle. And that's because an acidic body will have an overaccumulation of mucus. Because when we are acidic, our body is constantly producing mucus to protect us from the acidity in the body, right? So that is the beauty of this universe. The universe is constantly seeking balance. And it will do whatever is necessary, which means if you are consuming an overly acidic diet, which is all stimulants, coffee, alcohol, all animal products, most grains, if that makes up processed food inevitably, if that is the majority of your diet, which is the case for the majority of people, that means you are predominantly acidic. That means your body is constantly pulling calcium from your body and buffering the acidity with mucus production. And so you have mucus buildup in your body. Now, when the virus enters such an acidic body, the virus will start bringing up the mucus in an attempt to expel the toxins, because that is what the virus does. It brings up obstruction of any form, physical, mental, spiritual. And the denser, the first density that is there, which for most people is the physical, that's what's going to be brought up. In a similar way, we know that when we do plant medicines, when we did plant medicines before cleaning out our body, we had a lot of physical symptoms, right? Physical purging.
Much harder
journeys. The cleaner we got, now we don't have any physical symptoms anymore, because now there's nothing to break through and we go straight to source. So the journeys are much more intense. The information we bring back is a lot faster. When we have a pathogen or a virus enter our body, more than likely, I mean, I have definitely felt in the past, maybe like slightly off for like a few hours, half a day, where I could feel, oh, I'm working through something, but it's mostly energetic. I don't really get, like, we haven't had the flu or tummy bugs or anything in 6 years. And yet we know at times we're working through something. So then it's much more energetic. So it's just, it goes up in lightness. And sometimes, you know, we barely feel it. It's just a consciousness thing.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I didn't know if there were more questions, but I wanted to, if there were more questions about the
Not over there,
mechanics
but
of
there's-
that. One thing I wanted to turn to, thinking about how you were talking about the fear you've both been, the fear of the planet you've been perceiving, as within, so without, right? So there's this individual journey we're being asked of, maybe with the coronavirus. What are we being told as a collective about the terrain, right? Like, what are we being shown? I mean, what are we being invited to do as a collective through this experience?
Sure, there's quite a few things I think we're being told.
Well, the first thing is really, so what I've been feeling in the last week in particular is like this terrible heaviness, like almost like I couldn't move, immobilized, and I couldn't find my center. And as I felt all of that, like I realized, yes, that is how, first of all, I used to feel. And that is how most people are feeling. They're feeling like they are powerless. There's nothing left to do. We don't know what to do. We can't think straight. And it's very sluggy, very heavy. Well, that is the level of powerlessness that we've been living with, and we have entertained it away by going out to eat, by going to the malls, by watching Netflix, you know, by thinking of my holiday next week. So we haven't been sitting with the severity of the situation, of the state of the world. And, you know, we've been talking about this for 14 years, and I know you and many others have as well. But the vast majority of the world have been looking at people like us and going like, oh my God, you're living so in illusion. And, oh my God, you're such hippies and so exaggerated. And, you know, but the truth is we were feeling what everybody else is feeling now way sooner, because we could see how bad things were getting and at how deeply inhumane we've been living. And we've tried, I know I've tried for many years to make it okay. And I was trying to climb the corporate ladder. And every single time that I was getting somewhere, spirit would come in and kind of bring me back to real reality and go, Alex, what are you doing? And eventually I had to listen. I had no choice because my body broke down. So we, the ones that have been carrying this message, simply were way more sensitive than the vast majority of people, or less numbed down, because I feel ultimately like we are all the same. It's just that some of us have been numbed down and broken down. So the sense of, I don't know what to do, I can't do anything, that is what we have allowed in. And that is what we are all being asked to break free. And, you know, many can look at people like us and go like, oh, well, you know, you've got it easy because whatever story you want to make up. We went through this period already. So we have worked through all of that already. You know, when I worked with you, Theresa, you worked through exactly that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have practice in what is it that we need to do, and it's upon us. So number one is stop looking and hoping for answers. There is nobody coming to save you. Number one. Number two, the truth is existence, God, goddess, all that is, does not care about you as an individual. It doesn't go, wow, Theresa, you are an amazing being of light. I love you. And you know what? I'm here to help you. No, it doesn't care about us as an individual. It cares about us as a collective. And yes, it gives us all the help and assistance, but we need to meet it. We need to rise out of our own sludge, because it's the only way that we will come to know our divinity. If it's done for us, we're always going to be questioning, did I do that? Or was that just lucky? Or, you know, we come up with stories. But when we have to dig deep, when I had to decide, I am going to live. And the reason why I'm going to pull into the darkest and deepest recesses of myself to live is because I'm going to choose this round how I want to live in every area of my life. I want it all, and I will have it all, and I'm going to give it all to myself. I had to dig deep. Then as I dug deep, the universe met me and went, okay, game on. What do you want? You're being served on a silver platter. And here we are on a tiny little island living in paradise and going, how did that happen?
But yeah, I think as a collective, the planet is really being asked to look at, you know, just what do we really value, and what is freedom. You know, yesterday we gave a talk around the whole topic of freedom, and it was in many ways triggered by a former colleague of mine who's still in the corporate world, and he sort of, we've been chatting a little bit, and he then said, oh, he's busy doing the XYZ pieces of work that I remember very well, and he says, it feels like an oppression. He says, one day I will be free, you know, and it's like, when is that one day going to be? And how do we get free? I mean, if you look into the conspiracy theories, there's all these conspiracy theories that all of this is just a cover up for, you know, a whole control oppression system, you know, it's coming to play through 5G and who knows what, and mandatory vaccinations and who knows what. To me, that's all irrelevant. This is all around each of us individually having to look at what are we doing that is really bringing true freedom within our own beings. Because we can just medicate ourselves through food, through drugs, through sex, through entertainment, and we're not going to be free. We're going to just live in the illusion that we've got luxury. But that illusion of luxury is not freedom. So I really feel like right now the whole world has been forced. It's such a gift in many ways. The whole world has stopped. Never before has this ever happened in history. You know, pollution levels are down. Everybody is like just sitting back and reevaluating what are we doing and where are we going. And in many ways, we got this message ahead of the curve, ahead of this, crisis, because we came to Bali last year. We ran a very successful training program and teaching people into our whole methodology of cellular rejuvenation. And we started really getting this very strong impression that it's time we created a new community, a new way of living. And we were then shown pieces of paradise, a couple of islands away from where we are. And subsequently, since then, we've now connected with people who've got all these huge pieces of land, these uninhabited islands, and they're saying, we wanting to create something new. And with that, we're just being inundated with people saying, we want to live the way you're living. I mean, here we are on this little idyllic paradisical island, which you mentioned that you guys are familiar with. And it does seem ideal. And I understand that people probably watching this from their apartment in Los Angeles or New York, cooped up and thinking, who do they think they are spouting this viewpoint when they're living in paradise? But the point is, we really all can shift to a whole new way of being and a whole new way of living. And that is what I think we're really being called to do right now.
Well, and maybe, to those people that are saying, who do they think they are? And, well, we did all the work, right? And
Yeah.
we did the work, but also we're very clear, we did the work, not just for ourselves, we did the work so that we can be way showers. And every single one of us has a piece of work that we need to do that is for everybody, because none of us are going to come through this by ourselves. None of us. And, we are both high achievers. It hasn't been easy to make the transition. It hasn't been easy to ask for help also, in terms of inviting people in. I mean, it's a whole new paradigm. But for those that are maybe sitting with the fear of like, ooh, like my biggest fear 6 years ago was, I don't want to be a hippie. I didn't even know what I meant with that, but there was just this thing of like, I was traveling the world, doing stuff in high fashion, working super high, and like I was terrified of losing whatever I thought I was going to lose, because ultimately I've only gained. But back then, so I have deep compassion for those of you that are watching this and going like, oh my God, I'm going to lose everything. And yes, you are going to lose everything. But what is to gain on the other side? I mean, every single day we're living here and we're going with amazing people that are here to work with us and to grow this incredible, massive vision that we have. And we go, I've never been so happy. I've never been so excited, so filled with like real juiciness. Before I was happy because I had all the things that I thought was going to make me happy, were going to make me happy. But deep inside, there wasn't like,
Yeah.
And now there's a fire, there's excitement. And of course, there's dips, there's moments of like, oh my gosh, but it's welcoming all of it, the glorious messiness of this life. And, we're sitting here and going like, may life use us, because we're here to create magic. That is what we're being shown.
Mm.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's imagine there's a person listening to this, maybe in their apartment in New York or LA, who is excited by what you're bringing, your energy, the vibe that's coming through the screen. but they're also afraid. They're terrified to go out of their apartment. Maybe they're washing their hands as they're listening. You know, there's this pervasive fear of unsafety and don't leave your home. What would be sort of like the roadmap, at least the next 10 turns on the drive between here and where you're pointing to? And in this, I'd love to hear you guys talk deeply about, as much as you can, about the mucus-free diet. I know that's a central component to what it is that you bring and support people with and transitioning into. Talk about that a little bit too, but like, where do people go once they arrive at your message and they're excited and they're interested in this clicks and this makes sense? What are the things that they can do? And maybe even one last little asterisk, talk about some immuno boosting things that people could even do right now if they're really afraid of this virus and getting sick.
Yeah. So the first thing is, get your body right and really understand, and obviously I can't go into like the deepest details, but understand all the diet described so far, from Ayurveda, which is where I started out, to paleo, to ketogenic. They are diets that are basically taking into account our already compromised immune system and cellular health. And they're saying, okay, so your cellular health is what it's supposed to be. And so we patch you up so that you can kind of function. Ayurveda is a patch up. Ketogenic is a major patch up. And all of these have a big price. And the big price is that you are living from an inferior place of humanity, meaning that when you live in those paradigms, you are not going to be able to be connected with higher source consciousness, which is our nature. And so really, and how difficult it is many to let go of those, because doctor says, well, if we're learning anything right now, is that doctors don't know much about health. They know about how to care for the sick, how to manage sickness, but they don't know how to get you to optimal health. And so what we are teaching is a diet that breaks down mucus in the body. If you want to go and look at one of our main influencers and teachers, really, is Dr. Arnold Ehret, The Mucusless Diet Healing System. It's a tiny little book. You can literally read it in 2 hours. And that is a major paradigm shift. Now, I don't feel he has all the answers, but our system is very much based on those principles. And in essence, what you can start doing is start to radically increase the consumption of fruit and vegetables. Do it gradually. Know that this is not a quick fix. Know that there is no need to rush, because if you rush, you're actually only going to put yourself into a state of detriment, because this detoxification process needs to happen gently and slowly. And so as much as you may be in a panic, like, oh shit, I've been eating crap for 20 years and I need to rush through this. No, you need to go slow and systematic, simply, and also trust that where you are at is the perfect launch pad for your highest expression. So none of you are doomed. I want to make that very clear. No matter where your starting point is, it's okay. It's just get the message now and begin the journey now. And so increase fruit and vegetables, remove all animal products, remove all bad oils, other than avocado, coconut, meat and oil, especially if it's virgin, some olives, and that's really it. So remove all the bad fats, remove all the glutinous grains, and stick to spelt, teff, little bit of quinoa, and keep those for the evening. I'm just giving you a quick rundown. So your ideal day is fruit in the morning, huge salad and vegetables for lunch, green smoothies if you need in between, and for dinner have a little bit of cooked starches, sweet potato, spelt, lots of vegetables, more raw veggies. Like that is a great, it's a quick rundown of this is what you can do now. Huge raw vegetable salad to sweep out toxins from the body. Get wheatgrass. Our programs all include products which have all been developed for us specifically. And at the moment, for now, there's kind of limited quantity because everybody's rushing out to buy herbs for their big production. But our programs include these products, but you can do a lot on your own. Get really strict on getting a lot of good vitamin C. Don't take isolates. When I talk vitamin C, is get citrus, baobab powder, acerola. Get natural. Go back to nature. We always think that the most potent medicine is what we find in a bottle. The most potent medicine is nature itself. Start doing enemas. Start cleaning out your colon. You've got the time. Coffee enemas are only helpful in the beginning. Afterwards, we switch to water and lemon juice enemas because they are far more safe for the liver long term. Get used to fasting. And again, all these can be gradual.
Yeah, you can start really with a 3-day fast, a 3-day juice fast. People don't have to jump into, like we speak of, 40-day fast. No. That's not necessary.
Gradual. Start and the pressure will be off. And the biggest piece really is the internal shift in consciousness. Because once you see, oh, I've been doing it wrong all along. Can you accept that? Can your ego accept that you've been doing it wrong? And it's okay. It was part of the journey. Like my kids, they now, they want to explore some foods. They're not strictly like us. And they remind me, Mom, you've had 40 years of eating junk. It's my turn. I go, okay, you're right.
But they'll have to learn,
Yeah, their journey is the same as all of us. But so can you accept that you've been doing it wrong? Can you start to look at people, and whoever it is, it may not be us, it may be somebody else. Look at people whose energy is inspiring, is uplifting, and follow, right? Accept help and assistance, and accept that once you start, there is a journey. And instead of being fearful and going like, oh, nothing is the same. Wow, nothing is the same. How flippin' exciting is that? In terms of immune boosters, drink chaga tea all day long. Take reishi. So all the mushrooms are incredible. Mushroom is the internet of nature. Mushrooms connect us. Mushrooms bring us back to our deepest, truest nature. So take as many mushrooms as you like. Whatever mushrooms. And so reishi, chaga, super powerful, lion's mane, all the medicinal mushrooms, wheatgrass, take daily shots of wheatgrass. These are all immune boosters. And, but of course, immune boosters cannot outdo a bad diet. So you can't sit there drinking your coffee and eating your ice cream and still, and doing like immune boosters 3 times a day. I mean, it's going to make a minor difference. So see this time as a time to really make the shifts and learn to sit with the discomfort and with the fear and the pain and inhale all of that, right? So see the fear that you have, see it, and instead of going like, oh no, I need to remove myself or entertain myself away from it, swallow it, allow it to burn through your system, and see that it is here to serve you. What else can people do right now?
Yeah, I think right now it's also very important to like really align oneself with positive teachers, spending time in meditation, really seek out people that resonate with you and everybody's putting out a lot of amazing programs right now. Yeah, I think that's really important. And, you know, just again, switching off all of the unnecessary, not getting caught into the mainstream media, not getting caught into, you know, the social media, and really just taking time for that inner practice.
Yeah. I mean, we always forget, you know, I always look how, like, we totally forget to mention our stuff, you know, we're like, oh yeah, but our programs, which we are, you know, relaunching now, is on one hand cellular detoxification. So if you feel like you're ready for that, we have 12 incredible coaches that can help you. And you know, you can choose to work with our, you can choose to work with myself if you're really ready for highest level breakthrough. And go out there and basically invest in yourself now. And this is what we've been doing for years. While everybody else was building their empire, their sandcastles, we built our internal empire. And we were so clear on that for many years. All the money that we made in our high-end businesses, we invested in ourselves. And as much as to the outside world that kept, you know, being, it was like, oh, you guys are crazy, you know, you're not thinking of your future. It's like, oh no, we are thinking very much about our future. And we know that the only wealth that we truly have is our own internal positioning towards all this craziness. And so invest in whatever resonates for you at this time. Gary's specialty is astrology of the now. So he answers specific questions. So if you have a question, like, for example, you know, is it time to sell my house, or is it time to look after my health? Because energetically, like, what is at the forefront? And this will be different for all of us. Like, what is important now? And oftentimes when we take the first correct energetic step, it opens up the pathway for everything else to unfold to our highest. Whereas if we work from fear, whatever you do right now that is coming from a level of fear is only going to damage you. So I would urge you to get very clear on what feels most loving, most exciting. Do that. And besides the detox programs that we have, we're now launching, we're calling it a mastermind. I mean, it's really, it's, you know, to me, all these names are kind of irrelevant. What we're offering is like, come and join us and let us initiate you to the level of transformation that we've gone through, which is physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental, so that you can completely live your purpose. Because ultimately, the biggest transformation that everybody needs to go through is we need to come into contact with our deepest purpose. Meaning, yes, I am good at teaching you cellular detoxification. That's the gift that I acquired, but that is not my deepest purpose. I share that because I've learned it. My deepest purpose is to hold space for a whole new way of being human. I know that that is my purpose. And I know that that's what I've been carrying and developing since I was a child. And Gary is the star magi. Yeah, so he is the magician.
For me, my purpose, you know, if we're talking about purpose, for me, my purpose is to really bring the awareness that time does not exist the way we think it exists. That we can shift time, we can manipulate time. You know, I mean, I work with astrology, which is a lot to do with prediction. But the more you work with astrology, the more you realize that time doesn't exist. And we're so caught into this linear mode. Like right now, you know, I was talking to my ex-colleague and saying, oh, what's happening with all your projects? And obviously all these projects are on hold and all these projects are not going anywhere. And all these, you know, quarterly results have been released now and the forecasts for the next 3 months is not great. And we're so focused on this linear time. But we start realizing that there's different times that exist. There's cyclical time. There's time can be manipulated and we can change our timeline. We can change our trajectory. We're not stuck on a road of fate. You know, We are not fated. If you get a disease, it's not because the universe said, aha, you've been bad, now it's your fate to get this sickness. Whatever comes is a gift. And yes, if there is suffering, it is grace. It's hard to hear that, but suffering is grace. And we can really step outside of this timeline, and we can step outside of this 3D reality, transcend the fourth dimension of time, and move into a 5D consciousness where we can see things from a different perspective and beyond. I mean, there's many dimensions beyond that, but we do not need to be trapped entirely in this realm of time and space. You know, these can all be manipulated, and they're ancient tools and ancient techniques, which I've been really privileged to have discovered, these amazing techniques of being able to say, well, what is the essence of what's happening right now? Let's look at right now and how we can see what the energies of right now is. And from that, we can shift and move into a realm of creating our reality. And that for me is the essence of what we are all being called on right now, is how do we want to create our reality collectively and individually going forward? This is a unique time in human history. I mean, it is, I keep sitting back with this like, wow, this is amazing. As hectic as it all is, and as crazy as all the economic suffering is going to be, it is still a unique opportunity where we can truly shift our path and our timeline. And that is my hope and my prayer for humanity, that we really can take this time. But, you know, then the tools are there. We have been shown the way, and we know what we need to do. And it's, as Alex said a little bit earlier in the talk, it's actually all quite simple.
Oh, so perfect, you guys. Thank you so much for going into all of that. I feel like it's so empowering. You've been talking about the new human, and I know you guys have written about the old world is over, basically, and that a new world is upon us. I know there may be a few different timelines depending on the choices that people make, but what do you see coming? Like, what kind of society do you see coming? What kind of world do you see coming? And new human do you see coming?
So I personally feel there is, and I've been talking about this for years, Homo luminous versus superhuman. And superhuman is, you know, this crafting ourselves into something, whether we do that through crazy exercise, you know, through the cosmetic surgery, through biohacking, neurohacking, all of that, that all still comes as an effort to avoid our deepest humanity. And it comes out of fear, it comes out of a lack of trust in our divinity. And we can run with that, and we become zombies. We become dehumanized, and we become these superhumans that on the outside, you know, look like something, but ultimately there is no soul, there is no connection. And so the taste of that life is very insipid, which is why, you know, it needs to look like so much, because we need to believe in what we have created. On the other hand, we have Homo luminous, who is really the human that has gone deep inside of the soul and deep inside of the shadow, with the understanding that the only way that we can get to our light is through the shadow. By embracing our shadow, our darkness, our fears, we become able, we get kind of forced into the light. Sorry, Nak, I couldn't hear that.
Now, we may have a visitation here in a second by a 3-year-old who may have
Please continue.
us out.
Please continue.
So yeah, it is this Homo luminous is the ones who have made deep connection with our deepest, darkest shadow, have gone into discovering what our gifts are. And it is through our gifts that we come to our cities, through our most magical expressions. And of course, Homo luminous also means being completely in touch with nature and understanding that we are not separate from nature, just as we are not separate from one another. And I know that for many that is scary, right? It's scary to lose the sense of identity, of uniqueness. But actually, it's the opposite. We are here to discover how every one of us is completely unique, and yet how my unique expression needs Gary's activation, your activation, in order to become this explosion of cities, which then create a divine new world. And for that, so that's the invitation right now. It's like, what do you want to be? Do you want to be superhuman and, you know, become this painting that you paint of yourself, but where there is no real connection? Or do you want to go deep into your humanity and thereby tap into your utmost divinity, which is the exquisiteness of that is that when we go for that path, nobody can take away our knowing of our divinity because we've experienced it. And it is not attached to anything external. Everything external can be taken away from us like that, and we still are deeply connected to our infinite power. And that is true wealth, because from there you can recreate reality over and over and over. You will never live in scarcity.
Yeah, I think, you know, we in many ways, if we go back, a lot of people may be aware of, there was a big hype around the year 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar. And many ways, that was the seeding of the shift, you know. And now we are 7 years later, 8 years after 2012, and now we are really in the middle of the shift. And we've got another 7 years to go. And this is written around quite a lot by Richard Rudd in the Gene Keys. In fact, I can put comments to this video. There's a key piece where he writes about, you know, these three shifts, and it's really, this is a time of awakening for humanity. You know, we really now in the middle of a deep wake up call. I mean, this is at a collective level a big wake up call, and we are shifting, and we're going to see a big shift in human society over the next 7 years, next 7 to 10 years. I mean, just technologically wise, there are changes coming in our world through technology that are beyond what we can begin to understand. And with that, there is an upgrade coming to human consciousness. And right now we're in the midst of that real big, the alarm bell went off and everybody's sitting up and saying, whoa, what do I need to do? What is it all about? You know, what is the meaning of this life that I've been living? And right now we're being asked to upgrade our consciousness and to upgrade our systems and upgrade our bodies and to upgrade this world, because we all want a new world and we can do it. We do not need to subscribe and fall into the fear and the control mechanisms and the dark sort of negative viewpoints. We can shift.
Yes, but maybe let's also touch upon, because of course, like here, so we're saying, you know, this new timeline that we create and that we are creating is possible. There is also very much, you know, the negative, the counter polarity, the polar opposite that is happening. And there is going to be more constriction, more taking away of your personal freedom on all levels. There is much more automation coming. And so our lives are being restricted, especially in the so-called developed world. And yet what are you going to accept? So it's not that you're not free, you know, like you're free to decide whether you want to stick around for that. And chances are, as much as your freedom is going to be taken away on the one side, you will also have a new set of privileges for those that aren't willing or able to do the greater work. And, you know, for those that don't feel called to, like, chances are there's going to be handouts. There's going to be a level of sort of medicated comfort, right? It's a little bit like medicine. Medicine is wonderful for those that don't want to do the internal work, that can't do it, that maybe in this lifetime it's just not their karma, you know? So that is where, like, I often talk about owning our karma. What is our karma? And I view karma very, very impersonal and neutral. And we all have it. And what is it pointing towards, right? Like, for me, my karma is this, that I'm living. I wasn't born to be a famous fashion designer, even though, like, for a while my ego wanted to believe that. I came to be a disruptor. I came to be a way shower. I came to be a dreamer. And I needed to own that, because not owning that was making me sick. And, you know, so we all need to own, what did we come here to do? And if there is no better or worse, but live your truth. And the reality is, yes, there will be more lockdown happening, but maybe for some that feel safe, maybe some are perfectly happy in that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just as there's nothing wrong with not being ready to detox your body, is live in truth and follow the love in your heart. Follow your highest joy. Maybe a last point to touch upon, because this is another point, you know, 5G and the real dangers that are connected to 5G. I personally see 5G is a necessity, again, because it is part of the evolution of our planet. It will speed things up tremendously in terms of communication and everything. But at the same time, are there dangers that are linked to it? Absolutely, I think so. And which is one more reason to get our bodies into the highest frequency and highest level of resilience possible, so that we can cope, so that our bodies can cope with the negative effect of 5G. And I also believe that it will be a necessity for many of us to start migrating towards wild nature, so that we can live this pristine lifestyle that we are now privileged to live, you know, with daily deliveries of fresh coconuts and fruits and high vibrational vegetables. And, you know, where you're able to go and swim in the ocean twice a day for 20 minutes. Those are all things that are going to raise your frequency, your vibration, your level of health. And then you can tolerate the toxicity of 5G.
It's amazing you raise 5G, because that's, like, in the last couple of weeks, and I think there may be some pairings with the coronavirus. I've heard a lot of different stories and theories and videos. I've been sent my share of YouTube videos too. But it's amazing you raise that, because our initial impulse is to go into the wild. Just where is it? Where is that less pervasive? Where will that technology be less built? Well, certainly away from urban areas and into wild places, which has been, it's been interesting to watch that, because it's kind of like we were waiting for a permission slip. I mean, we were here in Vegas to do something entirely different, which I think you guys are aware of. But who knows if that's even going to be relevant in like 5 minutes, you know? Everything's moving so fast. We were here to produce a theater piece, and now it's like, well, maybe past tense by the time it's, you know, by 2 months from now.
And the content of the piece is playing out now.
Literally right in front of our very eyes. But it's funny. It's like that was our initial impulse, like to we got to get into like wild place, like that's, but it's not just like we're running from 5G. It almost feels like that was just sort of like the little bridge to like trick us into remembering, like, oh wow, that's what we really want.
Yeah, it's about connecting more with nature. This is really You know, I think that's another key point, that so many people have this viewpoint of nature is out to get us. In nature are virulent viruses and pathogens that are out to get us. Nature is dangerous, and we need to surround ourselves with antiseptics and hand washing and masks, and we've got to keep nature out of us. And what we're saying is, you do not need to fear nature when you align with nature. When you're living clean and clear in your spirit, body, and mind, then there is nothing to fear. And then we realize we are one and part of nature. And then that naturally triggers the response in us to wanting to be more in pristine nature and to get away from the contamination and the toxification of urban society. So that's really, I think, a key awareness.
Well, and then we realize, because, you know, in some ways, and again, I always speak to the people that are sitting in their high rises, because I feel even though I didn't live in a high rise, I very much thought that way. I was terrified of nature. And, you know, and it seems so ridiculous now because I have so rewilded myself, you know, beyond recognition for my old self. My old ego's going like, what happened to Alex, you know? And every now and again I have to kiss it better and go, it's okay, you know, don't worry, Alex is happy. But fearing nature is again just a sign, a symptom of our deep disconnection from our body, and also ultimately a sign of how deeply our endocrine system and nervous system is not functioning. Because when our endocrine system and nervous system is fully online, nature is what feeds us. And now I realize that the luxury lifestyle that I was always after, it's here, it's in nature. And that we don't have to live like hippies. In fact, what we are creating with Utopia Rising is beautiful barefoot luxury, where we can still have access to all the things that we love and enjoy, but with respect to nature. And we can still travel and we can still enjoy, you know, the things that we like to enjoy and dip into, but nature needs to be priority, just as the lifestyle that we teach, living mucus free, we need to live it 80% of the time. You know, it's not about becoming dogmatic or fearful of, but it's just understanding that everything needs to be given its rightful place. And when we live in accordance to nature and in symbiosis with nature, we're free. That is the freedom that we long for.
Nice. Gosh, about 3 or 4 questions came to my mind, but I think we're probably at a point where we should shift into wrapping up. We have a couple of questions from some viewers that I would pose to you guys right now.
Sure.
And let me see. One related to allergies, which I thought was kind of interesting. I mean, that's something that from your perspective could be pretty compelling. Here it is. Can you define an allergy, and how are they different from germs and viruses? So you've got allergies, germs, viruses, and what are the differences? And specifically, what is an allergy?
Yeah. So any allergic response is again a symptom of detoxification. It's the body trying to detox. So we have people that are, you know, that come to us that go, I can't do what you're saying because I'm allergic to fruit, or I'm allergic to oxalates. And that is just the body. So if you're allergic to fruit, for example, I would say that's your sign that you are severely toxic and acidic. And so when we eat fruit and we get a reaction from it, you know, some people have only a reaction to certain kinds of fruits, but that is still the body, basically the allergic reaction is an effort of detoxification. And we have to realize that detoxification means going through a healing crisis. So an allergy is actually a healing crisis. It's just that because most of us, so we eliminate the foods that we're allergic to, and we continue to eat all the other foods that create acidity in the body. So then the body never gets to detox. Nut allergies. Nuts are one of the most, I'm trying to get it. Well, basically nuts feed pathogens. All nuts feed pathogens. So if you have pathogens, viruses in your body, like so many of us that have, EVB, this is what I had years ago, nuts and seeds feed EVB. And various viruses, herpes, etc. in our body. So nuts and seeds, strictly speaking, they're not healthy. Nuts and seeds is something that we can consume once our body is predominantly alkaline. We can tolerate some nuts and seeds, and we can have them for fun. And they do have certain stimulatory properties that at some point in time can be helpful, but not in a body that is already weakened. So allergies is always just a sign really of deep-seated toxicity.
Yeah, and the more you detox your body, eventually the allergies will fall away. I mean, that's what I had. I had terrible hay fever every spring living in Cape Town. And then once I started the detox path, suddenly I noticed, my hay fever was getting less and less each year, until eventually, this last spring, nothing at all. So allergies are really just indicative of a toxic system.
Got it. That's very helpful. Yeah. Did you want to ask the last question?
This one here? Or?
Yeah, this is from
Yeah.
Carol. You guys may know
You guys
Carol.
know Carol, I think. Why do we have to muck around in the darkness to feel what the light truly is?
Well, I would say most of us do.
Well, that's really a very long alchemical story. That, it's a long story and deep metaphysics that we could really go into, but let's not go there right now. Within us is the shadow, the darkness that we have to muck around in. It is also our power. And the journey of awakening is loving the shadow, loving it to a place where we own it. We're not killing it. We're not out to kill the shadow. Because when you kill the shadow, that dragon, another head, just pops up more powerful and consumes you. But we dance with the dragon. We dance with that dragon. We dance around it, and we love it into being, that it becomes our powerhouse, and that we can acknowledge, like I can acknowledge I have these various shadows in me, and I know that I can feed them in a way that they will take over my life. But I've seen them, I recognize them, and they become my allies.
Yes.
Because the shadow ultimately, just like the fear, is only pointing in, it's pointing us towards the polar opposite. And the reality is, we've all met people that where, we've all met people where we go like, wow, they live like an enlightened being, but they are not self-aware. Like I know I've met people like that they're living enlightened, but they are not conscious of it because they're not conscious of their full selves. Does that make sense? So
yes.
When, it's only when we see our totality that we can live from choice. And because otherwise we're just like an animal, right? I mean, like a dog is happy no matter what. You can yell at it, and 2 minutes later, it'll be happy again, wagging its tail. And whereas us humans, we have the gift and curse, which of course it's not, but, of feeling everything, of being able to be conscious and the observer of everything. And certainly in my experience, the only way that I could get to my light was through embracing my suffering. I feel like for years and years and years, I tried to shortcut my suffering, entertain myself out of it, gain success so that I could, I tried all the tricks in the book. And eventually, when my body broke down and I started doing all the deeper work, it was like, okay, are you going to face your deepest, darkest stuff now? Or are we going to play around some more? And eventually I was like, okay, let me dig deep. Let me just take it all now so that I can be not done with it, but so that I can integrate it. And it was only when I was brought to that point of saying, I've had enough, I don't want anything else but my pain right now, that I could go through it.
Yes,
Yep.
central core lesson of my work with you, Alex. And exactly what I needed at that time. I feel like it's such a point of confusion in the spiritual community, which obviously is talked about quite a lot, but I certainly did.
And yet, it doesn't have to be painful, right? Like we can, because at some point, we can see that all this pain, all the years of blaming and being in our pittiness is like, can we see the comedy? Can we just see it? In some ways, it's like, from our perspective, and I don't mean any disrespect towards people that have lost loved ones, in this time or so forth. I don't mean any disrespect there, but from my perspective, I am a cosmic being. I've always looked at everything in a cosmic way, which is a detriment and a gift, And so when I look at what's happening globally, it is a cosmic joke. It's, can we actually, instead of sitting in the fear and terror, can we see what's happening? And that what is happening is the game of people who are hungry, hungry for power hungry. The only reason why you would be power hungry is because you're in fear and because you're disconnected from your divinity. Because when you're connected, you're never lacking. You can still enjoy everything, and that's the other big miscommunication or sort of bypass in the spiritual community, that to be spiritual and completely connected to source, you need to be poor or only have a little. No, that's such an old, outdated paradigm. We are here to have everything on all levels, but it needs to all be in balance, harmony, integrity, and truth. And maybe we can end off, I can't remember where I read this piece, but recently I read this piece which said, don't harm anyone, including yourself, and go and do everything that your heart desires. Like, that's it.
It's so beautiful. It's perfect. I know that you guys already talked a little bit about your work, but we wanted to close just about where people can connect with you and what's coming up for you now, so that people can find you after this.
Perfect. So those of you that have specific questions, Gary, his astrology site, it's being finished, but you can message Gary with specific astrological questions. And we did a video on that. So if you're interested in that, that's Gary's work. Obviously, we work together as well in all of our work.
And that you'll find through livingmucusfree.com.
Yeah, livingmucusfree.com. That is our page strictly for the cellular detoxification, where we have 12 coaches that you can work with, and you get assigned. Basically, you sign up for our program, and we take you through cellular detox, which is the whole physical upgrade program. And you can choose to work with me, with one of our coaches. And then we are about to launch our new program, which in a sense is really the highest level offer, which is those that are ready to kind of like go all in, who want to heal their life. It's basically about completely healing your life and coming to a place where you are in touch with your purpose, and where we take you through manifesting your purpose into, like, okay, what does it look like? How are you going to live your purpose? And ultimately, the greater project that we're working on is Utopia Rising, which is the real estate development, which is really like barefoot luxury, where you can then live, you purchase a home where you live 3, 6, 9, 12 months out of the year, where we have unschooling facilities for children, where we're going to be offering cellular detoxification so that you can live this lifestyle and continuously regenerate and essentially live in a community of like-minded people where it's really about, you know, living the highest vibration possible. And the only question that we want to bring into our community is how blissful can we make this life?
Absolutely.
Whew. Geez, guys. This
you.
is so amazing, so inspiring,
Thank you, guys.
marvelous. Wow, just so great.
Yeah, I feel so lit up by this conversation. It's
Yeah.
really, it's just been so wonderful. And
What a treasure that you're bringing, something that's so tangible. It's not sort of like highly esoteric and, you know, I
Yeah.
don't know, am I there yet? You know, it's like this constant sort of thing in the spiritual community, like, but so that also, but also the kind of the shedding of the poverty consciousness that is so pervasive, not only in the world, but really in the spiritual community. There's a great deal of that. It's magnificent, really, really is. And the vision is really exciting.
Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you. Thank you for doing it.
I know that
Thanks,
we've been aligned in this vision from the beginning, and we really feel you as being, you know, also such beautiful spokespeople for this movement, which ultimately I feel, you know, like it connects us all. We all want this. And it is for everybody, and it is utterly simple. So yeah, don't get caught into rabbit holes. And the minute that you touch upon complexity, you're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
guys.
much, you guys.
So much. Thanks everybody.
Both.
Blessings.
Blessings.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.